Peugeot's third generation 3008 has evolved into a sleeker, more sophisticated kind of mid-sized family SUV with an all-new STLA platform. There's now a full EV version to sit alongside hybrid and PHEV variants, and cutting-edge looks and cabin tech. It's just a question of whether you'll like the way it drives. Back in the pre-COVID era, when this P64 model was being planned, it must have seemed obvious to Peugeot's engineers that by 2024, all that a mid-sized SUV like this would need would be a full EV power plant. It hasn't turned out that way. Customers refusing to be browbeaten by bureaucracy into abandoning combustion power. So quite late in this model's development, Peugeot had to package in the alternative of 2 additional fossil-fueled units. For the time being, the majority of 3008 sales are expected to be accounted for by the frugal 1.2-litre 48-volt self-charging eDSC6 hybrid engine that featured in final versions of the previous P84 second generation 3008 design. And for combustion-minded 3008 customers who still want suburban EV provision, Peugeot has developed a more competitive version of the 1.6-litre PHEV plug-in hybrid unit that never really found favour with the old P84 era 3008. The 48-volt self-charging hybrid you may already be familiar with from other Stellantis Group models. A pure-tech 3-cylinder petrol engine mated to a bespoke 6-speed dual-clutch auto gearbox, featuring a 22 brake horsepower electric motor built into its casing and energised by a tiny 0.89 kilowatt-hour battery. There's a total output of 136 horsepower, enough for a modest 230 newton meters of torque, which explains the equally modest 1.2-ton braked towing weight. And to some extent, the leisurely performance figures. Whether 1.2 litres really works with a curb weight of 1.6 tonnes is debatable. Rest to 62 miles an hour takes 10.2 seconds en route to 125 miles an hour. Though essentially a mild hybrid unit, this one can run the car solely on electric power at low speeds, and in urban conditions, Peugeot claims, can do so for up to 50% of the time. If you want more but don't want an EV, then you'll be directed to the plug-in hybrid 195 version based around a 150 horsepower 1.6 litre petrol engine mated to a 21 kilowatt hour battery that energises a 125 horsepower electric motor, which claims to be able to drive the car for around 48 miles purely on electric power. As we said at the beginning though, the 3008 that this French maker really wants you to have is the E3008 model we're trying here. The standard front-driven version supplied for this test has a 210 brake horsepower electric motor energised by a 73 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which when fully charged offers a range of up to 326 miles. If you select Sport, the most urgent of the 3 provided drive modes, the others are Normal and Eco, 62 miles an hour from rest takes 8.8 seconds en route to 105 miles an hour. If that's not enough, the STLA chassis has also been engineered for an even heavier long-range 98 kilowatt-hour battery, which needs a gutsier 227 brake horsepower motor and claims a range of 435 miles. The platform has additionally been engineered for a dual-motor all-wheel drive flagship version, which uses a 73 kilowatt-hour battery but offers a 316 brake horsepower combined output. As we said, it's the mainstream front-driven 73 kilowatt-hour E3008 model we're trying here, which offers 3 levels of regenerative braking through its steering wheel paddles. But even the fiercest of these doesn't come close to replicating the abrupt one-pedal speed retardation off-throttle that you'll get from some rivals. As we suggested earlier, you'll feel this car's considerable weight through the turns, and the wrist flick responses promised by the little steering wheel don't translate into a rack with much feel when you most need it at speed through tight corners when you're running late. Then there's the rather wooden quality of ride we mentioned earlier, which hasn't been much improved by this E3008 model switch to multi-link rear suspension from the cruder twist beam setup used by the 48-volt hybrid. Plus points with this Peugeot EV are regained with impressive levels of refinement, which would make this an excellent long journeying companion for EV customers unafflicted by the scourge of range anxiety. If you choose this 3008, it'll probably primarily be because you like the way it looks. The sleek fastback styling, the distinctive slim 3D rear light panel and the unusual cat's ear rear spoiler. Walk up to the car and the lights flash as it automatically unlocks itself. Will it be as avant-garde inside? In a word, yes. Peugeot says it's set out to deliver a high-quality lounge-like experience. Well, it's certainly nothing like anything you'll have tried before. A cockpit-like feel is delivered by this unusual fabric-trimmed central spine, which flows towards the separated dashboard. That dash is also quite different. Instead of the usual central monitor stuck awkwardly in the middle of the fascia, there's now this smart, floating, curved 21-inch HD panoramic screen that not only seamlessly combines the instrument and infotainment displays, but is also slightly raised so that it can act as a head-up display too. Behind it is this elegant concave aluminium panel onto which shades from the ambient lighting system are projected. It's all very high-end and unusually designed. There's a vast swathe of sustainably sourced fascia fabric flowing from the dash into the doors. The door switchgear panels angle down while the centre console spine angles up and has hidden storage in this lower section. Perhaps most notably, Peugeot has persisted with an evolved version of the previous model's so-called iCockpit front-of-cabin layout. This sees use of a tiny steering wheel, here redesigned, over the top of which, rather than through the spokes of which, you're expected to view the instruments. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. To start with, you'll probably keep reaching down to find the e-toggle gear selector, to no avail because it's been reduced in size and relocated to an almost vertical van-like position next to the starter button on the fascia. You control many of the infotainment display's functions via this row of virtual iToggle switches on this narrow, smaller screen below the centre vents. Swipe across its surface and you'll find that there are 10 different shortcut options, twice as many as with the old car. Enough on screens. What else might you need to know? Well, the redesigned dynamic seats are much more supportive than the chairs in the previous generation model, though you don't get lumbar adjustment unless you stretch to this top GT trim. You sit quite high. Build quality is good and the materials used feel classy. Plus, despite the avant-garde design, the ergonomics are fine. What about cabin storage? Well, Peugeot says there are up to 17 storage spaces with an overall volume of nearly 34 litres. Time to take a look in the rear seat. Will that switch to fastback coupe SUV styling hurt this third generation 3008 here? Well, you'll probably have to duck a little more to get in. But once inside, headroom's actually not too bad, provided you decide not to pay extra for the optional panoramic glass roof. Now, this bench doesn't do anything clever like slide or feature a reclining backrest, but the high-mounted front seats make it easier to slip your feet beneath them, which is just as well because despite this Mark III model's extra 64mm of wheelbase length, leg space isn't actually that generous for a car of this size. As with the previous generation 3008, the cargo area is generously sized with a capacity of 588 litres, though that drops to 470 litres on all-wheel drive E3008 models. The backrest can't be made more vertical to more easily get awkwardly shaped pieces of luggage in, but if you've long items like skis to accommodate alongside a couple of rear-seated passengers, you'll be glad of its convenient 40-20-40 split. When it's flat, up to 1,663 litres of space is available from this front-driven model. This third generation 3008 is a thorough evolution of what was already a thoroughly modern mid-sized SUV. It seems to have emerged from the kind of customer clinic research suggesting that stylish looks, premium high-tech cabin ambience, practicality and affordable running costs are all that really matters to a modern family when it comes to their choice of this class of car. If you agree that's true, you'll find plenty to like here, even if you don't stretch to the E3008 full EV variant this Mark III range has been primarily designed around. Those in search of a more engagingly characterful crossover of this kind may well wish for more, but those people are rarely served well by cars in this segment, and in the past they're not the kind of people who would have chosen a 3008 anyway. So this car has changed in almost every way, but the people it will primarily appeal to haven't. Perhaps that's a form of progress.